We are back, and this video is going to be kind of split up into two parts. Where first I'm going to talk about the continuing number of injuries for the Blue Jackets, as well as Jack Roslovic being healthy scratched, and then I'm going to get more into the game that actually happened last night against the Flyers for the Blue Jackets. So to start out with the worst news first, Patrik Laine, it was figured out before even the Flyers game that he's going to be out about 3 to 4 weeks with a sprained ankle. This injury was apparently suffered in the overtime in that loss to the Islanders, which stings because that overtime only lasted about 20 seconds. So the last time that Patrik Laine got a 3 to 4 week injury, he came back in less than 2. I mean, hopefully that can happen again, but I feel like the odds on that were very slim the first time, and then I don't know if we're gonna, I don't know if lightning in a bottle is gonna strike twice with Laine returning from an injury way sooner than he expects to. Hopefully it is closer to 3 weeks though than 4, as this team could probably use it's one of its top line wingers as soon as possible coming back. Another blow in this season from hell so far. It's in Blue Jackets fashion that one of the best off seasons in franchise history is followed up with this awful, putrid start to a season that there's technically still plenty of time to turn around, but it's been gross so far. So for the game, Corrali and Goodbranson do return. However, during the second period, both Jake Bean and Elvis ended up being hurt. They would leave the game entirely, and they were not in practice today, I believe. So you figured that these injuries are going to at least keep them out for a game or two, if not even more. Andrew Peeke was also sent to the locker room during the game against the Flyers as well, but he would end up returning to the game. So hopefully that he was just in some pain, some bumps and bruises, but hopefully nothing that actually keeps him from playing. And then we move on to the topic of Jack Roslovic being a healthy scratch for the game against the Flyers. Apparently, he and Brad Larson had what was a very candid conversation, and Brad Larson telling Jack Roslovic that he needs more from him. And this actually speaks a lot of volumes about Jack Roslovic's play and how the organization thinks that he's putting effort in playing right now, as the Blue Jackets center depth is pretty rough even when he is in the lineup. And Roslovic being out is just kind of an indictment on his play so far. He has had very little impact in his last like 6 games or so. I think he only had 1 assist in his last 6 games. He's -6. And also, it's not just that, but he looks like he's playing some very uninspired hockey. It's just maybe he's going through the motions a little bit, and this is probably a move that's made to kind of wake him up a little bit, to tell him, hey, we can't have anybody slacking right now, especially with the injury situation. We have to have everybody up and at him and ready to go. And if you're not, then we'll try to send you a message and scratch you and play you, which did mean that Kent Johnson drew in last night, which is for the best. I don't think Kent Johnson should ever be a healthy scratch. I don't care how he's playing. If you don't want him playing with the big club in the Blue Jackets, send him to Cleveland. I don't know why you're putting one of your top prospects on the shelf for no reason. But that's another topic for another time. But back to Jack Roslovic, he did decline his media availability through a spokesperson. So this is something to kind of monitor down the road. He doesn't have too long-term of a contract. It's just this year and next year at his $4 million hit. Maybe trading that might be a little bit difficult at that cap number, but if the Jackets are willing to retain on a trade, maybe that's a deal that gets made. Again, there's not really much there. I think this is just a routine healthy scratch to try to get a guy going. This isn't too unusual or irrational. There are plenty of teams in the league that they see one of their players isn't pulling their weight in their eyes, and they try to healthy scratch him to get him to wake up a little bit. I'm not saying the relationship has been ruined or tainted or anything, but if stuff like this does keep happening and the organization doesn't see improvement from Jack Roslovic or a return to form of what we saw from Jack Roslovic late last season, like Brad Larson said, there is a better version of him. We saw it for 20 games last year, and I think when Jack Roslovic is going and when he is playing his best and at his full powers, I do think he is the best candidate for being the top line center on this team as currently constructed, especially with Gaudreau and Laine. We saw Jack Roslovic and Patrik Laine have great chemistry late last season. I think if he is going, then he should be the guy there, but Jack Roslovic has to show something in order for the organization to give him that opportunity, and it just hasn't been there so far this season. However, there was a game played last night that we will talk about. The game did end 5-4 in the Blue Jackets' favor in overtime. So with Patrick Laine out, Emil Bemstrom got a shot at the top line with Gaudreau and Boone Jenner. And I thought throughout the game, the top line looked pretty darn good. They did a decent job getting zone time and getting some chances for themselves. Gaudreau and Bemstrom didn't end up scoring, but they were dangerous. They were creating a lot of chances. And it was I thought that line looked pretty okay against the Flyers. I would be comfortable with that moving forward to the next game, but that top line other wing might be a rotating door if Emil Bemstrom doesn't keep up that production. So in the first goal, Eric Robinson got credit for what was pretty much an own goal by the Flyers. You take those. It happens to every team sometimes. It happens to the Blue Jackets a lot. It happened a few times. I thought the Jackets played pretty well in the first period. John Tortorella didn't seem very happy on the ESPN broadcast about it, but getting kicked in the face by a horse maybe didn't help either. The broadcast saying that Tortorella was kicked in the face by a horse. That's a thing. That just seems like one of those John Tortorella kind of things that only happens to him. I don't know what he did to piss a horse off earlier in the day, but apparently it was enough to get him kicked in the face for it. The second period, early power play for the Blue Jackets. Boone Jenner scoring off of a nice setup by Kent Johnson and Johnny Gaudreau. Again, please do not healthy scratch Kent Johnson again. I don't care who's coming in. He should be in the lineup to scratch somebody else, please. Please let Kent Johnson play, or at least send him to Cleveland if you're not going to play him in the NHL. Have Kent Johnson play hockey. That's my point there. And then Jake Bean got injured. Elvis was having a solid game before his injury, which is a bit unfortunate. Kevin Hayes scored, and he was wide open in the slot. The broadcast making a note that Elvis did look a little bit awkward on one of his legs. And then the second goal happens on the 2-on-1. I believe that was Cates who scored that one. And at that point, it did seem like Elvis was kind of out of it. You can see that he was definitely not feeling right, and that second goal did send him to the locker room. Jonas Korpisalo would come in, and he immediately shows that he was prepared. He was still in good shape. He was tested early, and he was up to the challenge. Into the third period, the game was tied at 2. Boone Jenner creating a breakaway for himself with a blocked shot and scoring on Carter Hart was just a Boone Jenner type kind of block a shot, get a breakaway, and score. Good for him. And then 13 seconds later, Eric Robinson scores again. This is his second goal that he's credited for on a net front rebound off of a Marcus Bjork shot. Maybe Corrali got credit for that first goal, actually. I'm not sure. But either way, that first goal, whoever got credit for it probably shouldn't have. It was definitely an own goal by the Flyers. But back to what was actually going on. The Flyers got one back pretty quickly after a pinball kind of goal where it's just bouncing all over the place and it just ends up in the back of the net. Nothing really Corpy could do about that one. And then Travis Konechny would tie it once again on a Flyers power play. It was a bit of a rebound. He got a couple chances at it, and then one of them goes in. So after only one goal in the first period, the total teams combined for 3 in the second period and 4 in the third. So the game was a little bit quiet in the first period, and then as the game went along, it got more and more offensively minded, and the game would stay at 4s heading into overtime. And in that overtime, it would be the Chinakhov, Sillinger, Gavrikov line scoring after Yegor Chinakhov sent really a perfect pass to Gavrikov for the game-winning goal. The second time that's happened in overtime this season, where Chinakhov feeds Gavrikov for the game winner. He got to do the little phone celly. I didn't see if he actually did it, but I would be really disappointed if he didn't at least pull out a little cell phone call to somebody on that goal. And so the Blue Jackets get a win. I thought Chinakhov was really involved in the game in general throughout the entire thing, so it was really nice to see him get the game-winning assist on the NHL on ESPN game, and that was a fun game. It sucks that all the injuries happened. Besides all the injuries, it was a really fun game to watch, but Jake Bean and Elvis Merzlikins will be a couple guys you want to pay attention about their status moving forward. And even Andrew Peeke, I know he came back and he played, but sometimes guys will come back and play, and it turns out the next day or a couple days later that he actually has this really bad injury. Like with Nick Blankenberg, he came back and played in the third period in the other Flyers game, and turns out he had a broken ankle. So there's that. But overall, I do think that this was a good win for the Blue Jackets, especially considering where they are at with all their injuries. I think that if the morale stays high, then maybe they could kind of start compiling some wins together and maybe get the season back on track. Kind of like what happened in 2019, 2020, where a bunch of guys get injured, but they, each and every game, they somehow, some way find a way to come away with points. This is a 3-game point streak now. And in that season, it was a lot of really good defensive structure and like really elite hot goaltending. I don't know if they get that this year, but Korpisalo has looked solid, and I think the defense has actually looked not completely as bad. It hasn't been perfect, obviously. They did allow 4 goals in this game, but I do think the defensive structure has gotten better than the laughably horrible state that it was in earlier on in the season. It's just a matter of, can they continue this kind of we're the underdog mentality of going, giving it your all every game. And if they do that, can anyone on this lineup escape, unscathed from the injury list? We'll see moving forward. So thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more like it. Let me know what you think about the Blue Jackets in this game and their injury situation, down in the comments below. And once again, thank you for watching. I will see you at the next one.